everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are journeying deep into India's ancient rocky landscapes to uncover what is basically a forgotten masterpiece. We're talking about a site filled with devotion, mystery, and honestly, some truly unbelievable engineering. I'm talking about the Nageshwar Cave Temples. Now, these aren't your typical structures built from the ground up. Nope. They are hidden away where silence echoes through these massive stone corridors, completely carved directly into solid rock centuries ago. They're way more than just religious sites. They're literally a direct portal into India's spiritual and artistic past, perfectly preserved in stone.
Okay, I want you to literally imagine this. You're standing right in front of a massive, towering mountain. You're looking up at this rugged, completely natural surface. And then it hits you. Hidden entirely inside that solid rock is a hand-carved, incredibly intricate temple. No bricks were trucked in, no mortar was mixed on site. The mountain itself actually is the temple. It's just wild to think about.
Which brings us to the absolute biggest question here. How in the world do you carve an entire temple complex from top to bottom without a single machine? I mean, think about it. Some of us struggle to put together a flat-pack bookshelf with a step-by-step instruction manual, right? Yet ancient builders pulled this off with absolutely zero lasers, no excavators, no modern technology whatsoever. We're talking about an era where your entire toolkit was basically chisels, hammers, and an unfathomable amount of patience. The contrast between those primitive tools and the monumental, jaw-dropping scale of what they achieved is simply staggering.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The origin, faith set in stone. To really wrap our heads around these structures, we have to hit rewind, a long way. We need to go back to a time way before the modern steel skyscrapers we're all so used to today even existed. Indian craftsmen were out there essentially turning mountains into sanctuaries. And that tradition? It stretches back 2,000 years. Yep, 2,000. That's how far back a lot of these ancient Indian cave temple traditions go, especially the ones over in Maharashtra and Western India. We are talking about 2 millennia of architectural history just standing silently through the rise and fall of entire empires, carrying this massive legacy of devotion that has totally survived the test of time.
So, you might be wondering, what does the name actually mean? Let's break it down real quick. Nageshwar is a mashup of 2 words. You've got Naga, which translates to serpent, and Ishwar, which means Lord. Put them together, and it refers to Lord Shiva. These cave temples have this incredibly deep connection to Shiva, and as you'll see in a bit, that sacred serpent symbolism and the presence of the Shivling are woven directly into the very bedrock of these sanctuaries.
Moving right along to Section 2, Architectural Genius, Engineering the Impossible.
Now, here's the part that absolutely blows my mind. These builders did not build stone by stone. They didn't stack a single thing. Instead, they removed rock. They literally excavated mountainsides to leave behind these massive stone pillars that somehow support the weight of the entire mountain above them. They left behind perfectly proportioned meditation chambers, mind-bogglingly intricate carvings of gods and goddesses right on the walls, and vast sacred prayer halls. They even engineered these complex rock-cut water systems. And get this. Some of these sanctuaries were designed with such crazy mathematical perfection that sunlight hits the inner sanctum only during very specific times of the year. It's like a giant stone puzzle.
The carving method itself is just a completely unbelievable feat of engineering. They didn't start at the bottom and work up. No. Step 1, they started at the very peak of the mountain. Step 2, they carved downwards. By working their way down into the bedrock, they didn't even need scaffolding, and they hugely reduced the risk of the cave just, collapsing on their heads. Actually, a really famous example of this genius top-down excavation style is the Kailasa Temple at Ellora, which is carved out of one single continuous rock. And Nageshwar shares that exact same incredible lineage of rock-cut perfection.
To put that into perspective, historians estimate that hundreds of thousands of tons of stone had to be meticulously chipped away and removed by hand. Let that sink in. Hundreds of thousands of tons. And despite hacking away that sheer volume of hard rock, the carvings they left behind are astonishingly precise. They've held on to their breathtaking detail even after centuries of sitting there. It's just wild.
Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is the hidden science behind it all. Section 3. The science of the sacred, hidden acoustics, and climate control. See, these temples reflect a time when spirituality, architecture, and science were all working together in absolute harmony. Take the acoustics, for instance. If you utter even a tiny, quiet chant inside one of these caves, it creates these powerful, lingering echoes. Researchers actually believe these sound vibrations were not some happy accident. They were intentionally designed into the curvature of the walls to create this deeply resonant, meditative atmosphere that literally physically enhances spiritual rituals. And then there's the climate control. We all know how intense the summer heat in India can get, right? But if you step inside these ancient cave temples, they are surprisingly cool. The sheer thickness of the natural rock walls perfectly regulates the internal temperature. It is this brilliant, completely natural cooling system. And honestly, it's something that modern architecture, with all our fancy technological advancements and HVAC systems, still struggles to achieve efficiently and sustainably today.
All right, Section 4, Symbolism, the Serpent and the Shrine.
Remember that Naga translation from earlier? Well, the connection between the serpent and the shrine is everywhere in the Nageshwar tradition. The serpents, or Nagas, pop up repeatedly in these Shiva cave temples, and they hold some really profound meaning in Hindu tradition. First, they symbolize protection. They're basically the guardians of the sacred space. Second, they represent immense power and raw cosmic energy, and because they shed their skin, they are also incredibly powerful symbols of eternity and rebirth. Lord Shiva himself is famously depicted wearing a serpent around his neck, which is exactly why these mysterious coiled snake carvings are so absolutely central to these underground sanctums.
But here's the crazy part. What happens when time moves on? Well, a lot of these ancient Indian caves were completely swallowed up by nature. They just sat there, hidden for centuries under dense forests and rolling hills. Their rediscovery literally reads like an adventure movie script. They weren't found through some well-funded, coordinated historical survey. Nope, many of them were just accidentally rediscovered by travelers and explorers who were stumbling through the wilderness and suddenly went, "Wait, is that an intricately carved, forgotten temple buried in this mountain?"
Which brings us to Section 5, a legacy worth saving, protecting the past.
Look, these aren't just a pile of old rocks. They are concrete, physical proof of India's artistic brilliance, their highly advanced engineering knowledge, and frankly, incredible human dedication. They show us a civilization that believed architecture itself could be a profound form of devotion. But we have to talk about the reality here. These ancient sites face very real, very serious modern threats. Severe weather damage over thousands of years is inevitably going to take a toll. Rising pollution levels can actively degrade the ancient stone, and sheer neglect risks losing these treasures completely. Acknowledging these challenges is absolutely the first step, because protecting these sites is vital, not just for regional history, but for the shared cultural heritage of, well, all of us, humanity.
You know, there's a saying about these spaces that really hits the nail on the head. Every carving tells a story, every pillar carries history, and every echo reminds us of a forgotten world. It's that exact tangible, spiritual, and historical energy that continues to draw visitors today. Devotees still travel out there to sit and meditate inside these ancient stone chambers, looking for the exact same silence and inner calm that builders carved right out of the mountain 2,000 years ago.
So, the Nageshwar Cave Temples continued to stand silently through the centuries, mysterious, sacred, and completely timeless. Which leaves us with one final, pretty massive thought. Knowing the dark, echoing chambers, the heavy history, and the sheer, unfathomable scale of the unknown buried deep inside the mountain, would you dare explore these ancient caves yourself? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. And hey, keep questioning the world around you.